This is Tech Addicts. This week, the Oppo Find N2 and X6 Pro, the Asus ROG Phone 6 Pro snaps, Amazon and Disney tinker with their prices, and Nikon have a new black edition of their ZFC. Hello and welcome to this, the Tech Addicts podcast, and for the first time, possibly on YouTube. If it's not, I say possibly. Hopefully you're listening to this on YouTube. If you are, way to go.
Interesting. How's that working then? You just put it up as a podcast?
Well, I was having a look to see what other people are doing with podcasts on YouTube, and I noticed that they were putting up static images here, there, and everywhere to sort of illustrate what they're talking about, and that seemed fairly easy, and I thought I would give that option as well to people so that they could sit and listen to us on YouTube if they have a client and it's more convenient to them than using their podcatcher wherever they happen to be.
Wouldn't that knacker their bandwidth, though? Surely they're still going to be downloading a video file, inverted commas, rather than an audio file, which is much smaller.
That's very true. However, you can also stream it over YouTube Music, I believe, as well. Because sometimes if they can't find a song, they will go to YouTube and find a copy of the song, and you'll end up with the music video version of the song, and that comes over YouTube Music. So, well, we'll just throw it out there and see if people respond that way. If it's a little bit of extra effort on my part, which just destroys my entire Sunday as opposed to fractions of my Sunday. But, yeah, how are you?
I'm all right, thank you. Yeah, taking along nicely, no complaints. And even if I had some, no one would listen. Weather report from the north of Wales is sunny and warm today, but apparently this is going to be the last warm day. Hurrah! And it's going to be, going into next week, it's going to be getting cooler and cooler, about bleeding time. It is November after all.
Yes, I was noticing that it was frustratingly warm this morning. After you have a shower and you walk around, you do a few things, you're like, I am hot. Yeah. This is too hot. Yeah. It is November. Yeah. And it's not even like it's the start of November or the end of October. It's a good bit into November. And 2 days ago I saw a bee.
Wow, that's outrageous.
Yeah, I don't know where he's been, but obviously he's a hardy survivor, and he's still alive. I hope he's all right out there, and perhaps he's just sort of out cutting lumber for the cold winter nights ahead.
I can imagine what a worry it must be for you to think about where that bee is and how he's doing and his family and if everything's all right.
Well, yes, because I'm sure the cost of things going up. He's not going to be able to get cups of tea or hot cocoa as easily as he does. He's finished his work for the year. I hope he's put enough away.
Yes.
Which, by the sound of it, actually, there is cloud. I've got a funny feeling it might rain. But and I turned off the weather thing on. Oh no, it's still there. 14 degrees.
This week has been very windy, and I'm sure it was there as well. Apparently,
what did you have for dinner?
Apparently, that was the tale of Hurricane Nicole or Tornado Nicole or something.
Tropical storm.
That's the one. Yeah.
Which doesn't really work. Well, I suppose it is quite tropical here at the moment, isn't it? Because it's warm.
Yeah.
Tropical storms make sense.
What's nice about this time of year, though, is that even if it's warm during the day, it's dark by 4 o'clock. Now, if you're listening to this in the south of England, you'll say, 4 o'clock? No. Well, don't forget that we're further north than you, and it's pretty much dark by 4 o'clock these days.
It's 4:15 down in the south of England.
Yeah. We worked it out once, that between where I live now and Chichester, where I used to live, it was 23 minutes, I think, difference. So, a very sad,
worth mentioning on the podcast.
A very sad day where we had nothing to do.
Yes, and we could have a new bunch of listeners on YouTube going, the hell are they talking about? Oh, this is a tech podcast. We'll get into tech. We've got plenty of time.
Oh, no, hang on a minute. We measured that on a technologically sound piece of equipment, which was called a thermometer.
And a watch.
No, not a thermometer. What's it? That other thing. Anyway, carry on.
I think you've just summarised this tech podcast perfectly. We measured it on something that we don't know the name of, and we haven't gone to research to find out what it's actually called.
Indeed.
Mm-hmm.
Prepared. It's one of those things, yeah.
One of those new swanky barometers that we've been seeing that are all the rage with the kids.
Indeed.
All right. Well, we'll move into the feedback and contribution section. And before we kind of do that, I wanted to throw in, because there has been some discussion on the MeWe group. Ted, do you want to plug the MeWe group before we go into feedback and contributions?
Oh, yeah, the MeWe group is where we hang out, and we have discussions in there sometimes. I post everything that passes my news feed to try and generate some discussion. Links in the show notes. If you get lost, go to tedsalmon.com. If you go to tedsalmon.com, you get links to all of our MeWe groups and all of our audio podcasts. So no excuse for not getting involved.
Yeah, you can also go to techaddicts.uk as well.
Mm-hmm.
But last week we had a discussion, and it turned out that Ted had actually plugged his monitor into the motherboard connection on his HDMI connection on the back of his computer, as opposed to the graphics card that he has. I'm just going to further ask the question of, did you rectify this?
Well, the funny thing is... that when I was fiddling about with all this last time to try and do something else with it, I can't remember what. Oh, yeah, we were trying to get Windows 11 on my computer. I never put it back. So all this time, it's been in the graphics card one and not the motherboard one. So, and I can remember at the time now, I was thinking back to it, it made absolutely no difference to me. I couldn't see any difference. I tried it in one, tried it in the other, and... there was no difference. Now, if I'd started playing some heavy gaming, I guess I might have seen the difference. But actually, it's clearly had made no difference to me on my daily average use of my computer. So, I don't know.
All right. Well, I guess that just about summarises everything, doesn't it? I don't know.
Yes.
Yes, thank you for the contributions from other people suggesting things like HDMI splitters and things like that.
Yeah. Well, that's another matter, and that's something that down the road somewhere, when I get to do this using my second monitor in the portrait, I've still yet to do that one, and I will try that at some point and get that organised, but I haven't done that yet.
Yeah, it's a funny thing, actually. I got a wee second monitor in the other day to review from a company, and... I really like it. The unboxing will arrive on this YouTube channel if you're watching this on YouTube. Otherwise, you'll have to go over to the YouTube channel from wherever else you happen to be in the near future.
Right. Okay then. Oh yeah. The one thing that Frank Neidhart said was that Windows will work it out. So when I come to plug in my second monitor to do what I want to do, if I use a splitter or I use the other HDMI or whatever else it is, the Windows software will know what I'm doing. It'll work it out, and in the monitor settings, it will just work. So thank you, Frank. I will get to that one day.
You need a second monitor, though.
Yeah, I've got one. It's sat over there doing nothing, which is why I want to use it for something. And
You've been sitting there for an entire week on a second monitor and not... jumping on. You don't have anything else to do during the week.
What?
You were just telling me that you've got nothing to do during the week.
Only this week, because my parents went away. I'm a full-time carer, inverted commas, I'll have you know. So
yes, but this whole week you've had nothing to do, and you've been sitting looking at that monitor, not utilising it.
What I want to do is put it upright for my magazine editing thingy, and this is not the right time of the month for that. Yeah, I knew you were going to sniggle then. It's just so predictable. It's like talking to Aidan Bell with misses at every turn. So yeah, when the time of the month when misses, when it's ready to go with my magazine, I'll stick it up there and have a go, see if it works. Yeah, you're just terrible, aren't you?
Sorry.
People will tune out, Let's turn to other things. Do you remember on
bought something.
Last week's Bargain Basement, I put the Motorola Edge 30 Neo as a bargain basement, and I couldn't resist it because I love Motorola so much, as you know, and I got it. And now I can't return it and I can't sell it because I love it so much. It's still 319 quid on Amazon, which is some money off from 349, and I did a review. So I linked to my written review in the show notes as well. But it's just lovely. It's such a nice phone. It's so nice to get back from Motorola. And for that price point, I was saying on PSC, tune into PSC podcasts from today, folks, to listen to a bit more of a rundown on this phone. But it's just so nice. It's got... There's very little missing. It's Qi charging, and it's got the only thing. It's got a great battery, incidentally. The only thing that you could argue about is for those that want an always-on display, you might have to add that with software. But Qi charging, it's also got 68 watt charging in the box, brick in the box as well. And it's amazingly fast to charge. 40 minutes from 0 to 100. I've tested that twice, and it is 40 minutes. It works really well. And you get all the Ready For goodness, which is their version of DeX, which works really well. It's not the wired version, it's the wireless one, so it's not quite as good. But at this price point, it's just a stunning phone, and I would thoroughly recommend it for anyone that would like a close to kind of stock vanilla Pixel experience, but also want some bells and whistles. And it's a lovely size as well. It's a really, really nice size in the hand. So, yeah, recommended.
Does look very good. Does yours say on the back of it Pant 1?
Pantone is they've done
Pantone.
Pantone have done a deal with Pantone are a kind of graphics design colour kind of house place that are out there, and they're quite kind of well known in the fashion world and all that. And they've done a deal with Motorola, and so they're putting their colours on it. So they splash whichever colour you want. I think there's three colours they do in the Pantone range. And if you get them, not only is it on the back of the phone as that colour, but it's also, they put wallpaper options inside and all that sort of thing.
Oh, right, okay. I was looking there, the trade-in option, and we'll come back to this later on in the podcast as well, in the Bargain Basement. I was looking to see some of the deals, and I thought, I'll have a look and see how much it would be to trade in my Pixel 6 Pro to get something else.
Right.
And whenever you go to trade in your Pixel 6 or Pixel 6 Pro, it doesn't give you the option. It goes up to Pixel 5 and that's it.
Yeah, I think, isn't there a button that says my phone's not listed or something? And you have to...
there is, yeah, but it takes you to a help page. It's just how to find out who the manufacturer of your phone is.
Oh, okay.
It doesn't actually allow you to put in a different phone.
Right, okay. Well, I suppose they can't put every phone that was ever made. There'd be a list of 3,000, wouldn't there?
Well, yeah.
I've got a Dell Streak. Why isn't my Dell Streak on the list?
But the iPhone 12 Pro Max is as high as it goes for the Apple as well. Okay. I'm pretty sure they've made a couple of phones since then.
Right. Yeah, you're probably right. It's probably not a very good, very well-maintained list.
No.
So, but you can send them. I think you can send them anything. You just might have to ask.
Okay. Well, I'll maybe look into that later on when we're talking about it. All right. Chris Kelly has chimed in about an interesting one. It's a multi-port hub that comes with wireless charging, a wireless charging pad that you can install alongside that you can install an up to 8 terabyte SSD into. It's a KickStarter thing, and it does look like a nice little hub that has a ton of features on it, but it's just scarily cheap for that amount of money, for that amount of hardware as well. You can put an M.2 SSD in underneath. There's an Ethernet port on the side. There's a bunch of USBs, USB Type-Cs, micro SDs, micro USB or micro SDs, HDMIs, and it looks like a be-all and end-all of everything that you've wanted in a hub for $69.
That's the Kickstarter early bird thingy.
Yeah, that's all you can pay at the moment. You can get other ones as well. There's the Pro as well, which has an extra port on it, which I did look earlier. I didn't see the differences. But I forgot to look to see what the extra port was.
This is very similar to that. Do you remember that thing we brought on the show a while ago, which was more like a block? It was a box, and that you took the top off of that, and you could put an SSD in the top. Do you remember that?
Yes, I do.
That was very similar, and I think that one had a power bank in it as well. But yeah, this looks really good, doesn't it? 14 different ports and plugs, and as you say, up to 8 terabytes inside. Carry all your worldly data with you and have a hub as well.
Yeah, it has a bit of ventilation at the top as well. It's important to point out, because with all this going on inside it, if you were to plug it into a computer and be using much of it, it would probably melt through the core of the Earth down to the mantle, or is it through the mantle down to the core, which could cause volcanic effects across the Pacific Ring of Fire.
Oh dear, then you'd be responsible for the end of mankind.
It is entirely possible. Shush, Google.
Get away.
Google is really doing my head in at the moment.
Yeah. That SSD card that's in there, is that a normal size SSD card? In which case, that makes this whole hub actually quite big, doesn't it? Or is that some sort of mini SSD?
No, I think that's a full size S. Oh yes, it is the SSD. I was thinking the SD card there. No, the SSD. Yes, that's the full length one. It's not a mini one.
Okay, so that does actually make this bigger than perhaps it first seems. Although you can get a scale by looking at the size of the USB-A port, I suppose. Or
it looks to be about 7 inches long. Oh, wait, there's dimensions. 149 millimeters long, which by my calculations is almost 15 centimeters.
Yes, well done. What about in inches?
Oh, that'll be 5.8, but I don't like inches because of them.
You don't have any?
Excuse me?
You haven't got any on your ruler?
Oh, right, okay. I thought that was some sort of vicious onslaught onto my manhood. No. I'm used to measuring in millimeters. No, that's even worse.
No, it's just that SSD card looks too small to me. If I was going to buy an SSD card for my computer and plug it into a slot or wherever, I thought it would be bigger than that, but maybe not.
There are two different sizes. You can get a smaller one. I think there's even a smaller one again. Maybe 3 sizes of SSD now.
And how much?
But that's the largest.
And how much would an 8 terabyte SSD to fit in there cost by current reckonings, in your estimation, without having to go and research it on the fly and go and give me an exact amount down to the penny?
Were you buying time to allow me the ability to go and look it up?
I was.
Okay. Well, I failed in the challenge, so it's roughly £1 million.
It's nearer to 0 than £1 million. That's the answer.
Okay. M.2. Right. According to Google Shopping, an 8 terabyte SSD M.2 is about £1,300. You can even get some for £1,600 if you're unlucky. But yes, you'll be paying over £1,000. Oh, you can get one on AliExpress for £3.45.
Yes, I can imagine how many terabytes are really on that.
Yes. I've got a funny feeling it might just be a very old SSD or SD card inside of it that's probably been taken from somewhere else. Ted, what exactly is MSTDN?
This is the thing of the week. It's Mastodon. And
excuse me, not on the show.
Enough.
Hayden Bell will be in case.
Oh no, please, shut your faces. Now, Mastodon. If you watch Twig this week, they're just everyone seems to be decamping from Twitter because of the Musk era arriving and how naughty he appears to be being, and the risk of it kind of closing down. So they're finding a new home, and everyone seems to have flooded to Mastodon. When we stopped, when Google Plus collapsed in 2017-18, we looked at Mastodon and we thought about it, and I actually sent someone off, one of our members of the group, to investigate it and look into it. And it was high up there on our choices of places to go. We ended up on MeWe, which is fine. MeWe works really well. In actual fact, looking back, it still works better, I think, than Mastodon. But anyway, we are now in a position where if you don't jump in quick to Mastodon and get your username sorted out, then someone else will nick it. A bit like the start of Twitter, really. And so I thought I'd jump in and do that. And actually, having jumped in, there's from the PSC crowd and the my MeWe group crowds, there's quite a lot of people that are dipping their toe in, leaving Twitter and having a look at what it does, and it's very interesting. It's very Twitter-ish in many ways, but it's not. It doesn't have a lot of the bad bits of Twitter going for it. But I think you should sign up for an account and have a look, and we'll join up and we can both talk about it going down the line. I'm not suggesting that it will be used by us or anyone, but particularly for you, heavy Twitter user, if Twitter does go tits up, you might feel like you need a home for your stuff somewhere else.
Okay, well, I've signed up and I'm there.
Hurrah!
I've just added you as a buddy, as a contact, as a Mastodonian. I don't know what do they call people on here.
A follower.
And it's more, as opposed to masturbation, it's more to do with mastication, isn't it? Where you eat stuff.
A mastodon is an ancient mammoth. I'm not quite sure.
Is that what the elephant is about?
Yeah, it's something to. Yeah, that's the elephant bit. But I'm not sure what I'm not sure what mastodon has got to do with woolly mammoth or elephants. I don't see quite, unless it means that we retain our memory for a long time. I don't quite see why it's called that, but that's what it is.
Okay, well, I'll have a play with that later on.
Yeah.
I'm there now at Gareth Miles.
Excellent. I'll follow you.
Woohoo! On the up there, 100% increase on followers today. Right, okay. Hardline for the hardware. There's stuff in here to be talked about, and we've got interesting things afoot. Now, last year we had a bit of a surprise whenever Oppo threw out the Find N, which was their folding smartphone, and it took everyone by surprise because reviewers were just like, hang on a second, what's this? And before you knew it, there was a whole wash of videos hitting YouTube of this new fancy thing that they hadn't announced or anything like that. Mm-hmm. But this year, it looks like we're getting the Find N2 and another one called the Find N Flip. They're supposed to be the successor to last year's. I don't know if they're going to say it was a success or not, but it certainly got people talking because Oppo appeared to get things right. What can we look forward to with the Oppo Find N2 and Flip?
Probably never seeing it in the West. Is my guess. When the Find N came out, they did push a lot of them out to reviewers, and YouTubers in America seemed to get hold of them. But, try and find one to actually buy in a mainstream UK outlet was just very difficult. And it felt more like a kind of a prototype than anything else. But anyway, those that got them really liked them. They thought they were very impressive. They'd done it slightly differently in terms of ratio and size to what Samsung were doing, and it had some distinct advantages. Those that had them said that the crease down the middle of the screen was almost invisible, unlike the Samsung, which you could see and feel, and they just did it really, really well. Colour OS 13 is going to arrive with this out of the box, apparently. And actually, I do like Colour OS. I think it's nice. And it's not too far from kind of stock Android, and the bits they've added is really neat. I know it annoys OnePlus users, but that's another story. 120 hertz refresh rate on the screen, which presumably is going to be some sort of plastic. I mean, we haven't got folding glass yet, so I suppose it must be. But yeah. 12 gigs of RAM, 256 gigs of storage, and a CPU called a Mari Silicon X NPU by the looks of it, which is the equivalent to Snapdragon's 8 Plus Gen 1 chipset, so not Gen 2. Apparently they've focused in on AI noise reduction for this, 4K ultra night video, with other camera stuff as well that runs off the chipset, and yeah, looks really nice, and it'll be really nice to get hold of one. But at some point, they've got to presumably take the leap and say, we're going to do a global release on this and get these in the hands of people widely, and not just kind of push them out to reviewers and make everyone feel like they're not really available. You fancy one?
I do indeed, yeah. And it makes me think there are a couple of folding phones that we just don't get. Was it Honor did one as well that didn't come out in the West?
Yeah, that's right.
And then Huawei had another one, didn't they?
There's very few, actually, I think, that are mainstream. I mean, part of that is because Samsung is so out there and everyone knows the name, and if they release something, everyone will buy it, which they have done. And the average Oppo, people are not going to have so much confidence in. But I think they do in China. I think they're much more widely sold there.
But it still isn't winning. If you have a look, say, click on Xiaomi's list of phones, there's about 40 phones on that page, and one of them is a folding phone, and the Mix Fold 2, so I'm guessing there's a Mix Fold 1, otherwise they need to get their numbering sorted out quite well. But, there's not that many... There's not that push. I still don't think that they're sold on the idea of it, and they're all taking it very carefully.
Because when people get them in their hand, it's a nice novelty, and some people make really good use of it. Like, people that want to spread out with spreadsheets and do business stuff and all that, and that's great. And people that want to watch videos, although you've got great big black bars, of course. But we're so used to having a candy bar format, and this came home to me recently with this Motorola, is that I've been using the Flip 3, the Samsung Galaxy Z Flip 3, and it was just really nice to get back to a candy bar, and as good as the start, I think there might be a corner to be turned at some point soon, whereby they get folding glass, and the screen feels just as good as the candy bar, and that might make a difference. But I still think people want to have a phone being a phone kind of size, and I don't know. You haven't ever? Have you ever played with a folding phone?
No. Well, yes, I have, but I haven't had one for any length of time other than a few minutes or maybe half an hour in my hands.
Right.
But for some reason, I just thought about the LG Wing there. I was like, there's another example of trying to do something a wee bit different and it not taking off quite as well as almost anticipated. I figured that by this stage, whenever folding phones started to become a thing that we were talking about, we would have had a lot of choice, but we really don't.
One of the reasons being is that they're not satisfied with that. They're creeping into this kind of rolling screen territory, and this week there was the LG screen that kind of folds and moves around, and I think I posted that in the group this week, and there's other things out there, is my point. And the companies like Oppo and LG are pushing boundaries now in other ways. It's almost like the folding bit's been done, and no one's perfecting it. No one's working on, because the Z Flip 3 is great, but the screen feels like a resistive kind of 10-year-old Nokia. And when you touch it, it's just not a nice glass experience. When they crack that, I think that might change things.
Careful, don't be slagging off 10-year-old Nokia as you get Ted and Steve knocking your crap in. Right, moving on to the Oppo Find X6 Pro. There's been some specs leaked on this beastie. It has a really, really nice round camera setup on the back that, if you look at it one way, it looks like some sort of cute panda type thing. If you were to hold it upside down. But it's got,
isn't that nice? I wonder if they've done that on purpose.
It could be, yeah. We've got the Sony IMX898 in there, which could be utilised quite nicely. There's it's a 50 megapixel with a 1-inch sensor.
Woohoo!
If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
There's a 50 megapixel primary, 50 megapixel ultra wide angle, and a 13 megapixel telephoto lens. There's going to be a 32 megapixel front facing camera that might make you look like a panda as well, if you were to take a selfie on it. And there's the Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 Qualcomm's chipset, 8 gigabytes of RAM, 128 gigabytes of storage. and there may be a 12 gigabyte variant with 256 gigabytes of storage and 512 gigabytes of storage. So a bit of choice there if you've got loads of money. There's a 5,000 milliamp hour battery with 50 watt and 100 watt, or 50 watt wireless charging and 100 watt wired charging. Whoa. That's a nice combination of stuff that they'll be able to demand. Probably a decent amount of money for. Xiaomi don't tend to price their stuff out of the stratosphere. So, yeah. Would you want one of these? Would you even entertain buying one of these?
Yeah, I would. I'm just going to look up the... Is this the first Find that they've done with wireless charging? I had the Find X3. Let me see if I can find... Oh, there's the Find X5. Has that got wireless charging? The Find X5 has got wireless charging. But I don't think the Find X3 had wireless charging. He says, looking it up. X3 Pro... And yes, it did. I'm talking out of my arsehole. So, the trouble with this is with this new 1-inch sensor and the all the gubbins, everything thrown at this, including incidentally their Mari Silicon X2 that we were just talking about for the folding phone as well. It is going to be loads of money. I think it is. I think this is going to be... We don't see a price here, but I think it's going to be 1,800 quid or something like that. I really think it's going to be up there. And if you want a 512 gig storage one, possibly even more, 12 gigabytes of RAM is available, as you say, and I'm sure it'll be lovely. I really, really like my Find X3 Pro, and I almost kept it. It was that close. But and I got used to Colour OS really quickly. Really enjoyed it. So yeah, looks lovely. I want one.
Yeah, I do too. I haven't had an Oppo Find X in some time. I struggle to even think what the last one was I had. Mm-hmm. Might have been the 2 possibly. But I noticed down in the comments someone grumbling about bugs that they have in their Find X2 Pro. Can't say I ever had any, mind you. And yeah. So, nice one. Looking forward to that. It'll be another option for those who are maybe thinking about moving away from Pixels and S23s, maybe, by the time that comes out. Yeah. So, the Google is looking to scan internet-connected devices to assess vulnerabilities. This sounds dodgy.
Did you say Google?
Get out. No, the UK government.
Oh, right. I thought you said Google. Carry on.
It's possible I might have, because they were in the back of my mind.
Right.
But yes, an outfit more inept than Google, called the UK government, is looking to scan connected devices to assess vulnerabilities, according to this headline. I had a quick read through this, and what they're looking to do is, like security... national security, the National Security Centre is looking to do what cyber security firms do, and essentially from the outside see if they can scan to find a vulnerability for where pieces of hardware or software aren't secure and up to date. So essentially using the methods that we would use to hack people to test the infrastructure of the UK, see whether or not we could be open to an attack, because it's obviously a sign of warfare where a strange other far off country could decide to attack your country and take down the likes of, say, the NHS, which is very reliant on dated aging hardware. As we found out whenever they decided to turn off the fax machine, the NHS put their hand up and went, wait, hang on a second, we've got thousands of them, don't do that. And I think this might come off the back of that whenever they're going, oh, right, okay, we should maybe update some things and try and make the country a wee bit more robust to attack. Because it's just as sensible as having a defence budget to build warships and things like that. Do you have any thoughts on this?
Well, the worrying bit about this, I think, is that it systematically scans every single internet-connected device across the whole nation with the apparent goal of intelligence gathering for, as you say, security of the the country. But it scans everything what anyone is doing on any device. Their storage to do this must be huge. Every single device, everything, what people are doing, any responses, the date, time, and the IP address that stuff has been done from, so that they can analyse it, as you say, to assess the vulnerabilities. So if you've got some kind of terrorist cell operating, that whatever device they're using, the government will be able to analyse that, if not before and proactively, then afterwards and later, to presumably to prosecute people. But of course they'll find ways around this. That they don't talk about satellite connectivity here, and that's the first thing I would, if I was a criminal, that's the first thing I'd do. If I knew this was going to be happening, I'd say, right, well, let's use satellite phones instead, shall we? Which is exactly what they did in Afghanistan back in the day, and got round the whole kind of issue going on, except they didn't. But that's another story.
And also they tend to fall back to, say, for example, a burner phone, as you see in the movies, where they send text messages to each other and then they can destroy the phone and throw it away, or after 24 hours it's done and dusted. It also doesn't mention the likes of, say, VPNs, or going into more hardcore things like WireGuard and further on into that whole security side of things. Another thing that you see aped in films, where we're rerouting it through Uzbekistan, and oh no, he's out there in Texas. Oh no, they can't exactly.
Yeah,
is it just going to be, because it's the British government that's doing it? I don't think it's going to be particularly reliable.
It might be reliable, but the trouble is that they're going to spend billions of pounds doing this, when people, as I say, that know this is going on will just find another way around it anyway. But, what do you do? Do you then say, well, we won't bother doing this because if we do, they'll find another way around it, so we might as well let them use this way anyway? It must be very difficult to deal with national security on many different levels, and it's probably beyond the kind of scope of our podcast. We need to be specialists, cyber people, in order to do this kind of talk about this sort of thing, really. But
I think initially, straight away, people are going to just suddenly think, my internet browsing history, whenever I went searching for those pictures of Kate Middleton in a bikini. Are they going to know that? That is the immense panic that can just come from something like this. And I think the article is it's a bit scant on details. Mm-hmm. So it's not telling you whether or not it's how intrusive it could possibly be. But if there is an intrusion, would you know? Until they come knocking at your door saying, Kate's not happy. Because those photos weren't supposed to be there. And why you were in them is beyond me, Ted. Those sorts of things. Are they going to... is this all a ruse? Is it those typical sort of false flag things where, yes, we're doing this to assess security vulnerabilities, but in fact, we're just going to scan your hard drive and see whether or not you have been looking for pictures of Kate Middleton or even Boris Johnson in a bikini, because I know they exist.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the whole thing, just, I think, joking aside, I think the whole thing is really, really difficult, and I wouldn't like to have to be in charge. But then you'd hope that people in charge of this kind of project would be the ones with, like you see on the films, people that are super nerdy brain boxes who kind of know what they're doing. But then whenever there's a super nerdy brain box, the criminals will have an even greater super nerdy brain box, and it's like vying for position all the time and cracking each other's efforts to hide or to expose. Very, very difficult. Do you feel safe in the country?
I don't know. Well, this is what the government is for. Is that they're supposed to keep people safe. So first and foremost, it sounds like a good idea. It sounds like what we should be having. Obviously, other people are going to take this information and then spin it into something else, that this is not saying, and say, oh, they're going to be having a look on your hard drive and downloading all of your images and keeping them in one big vault somewhere, and they'll go through it, and then they'll nail you for whatever you've been doing. It'll be scaremongering, if anything, but the government does have a responsibility to protect people, and this is the protection that they need. And even down to something as simple as someone being able to hijack, was it Jim Browning is his name, I think, on YouTube? I can't remember his name. He sounds like a fellow countryman. He tends to go and scam the call centres that call us and scam us. So if this was to clamp down on those sorts of individuals who can exploit the elderly and the unaware, then this is absolutely worth it.
Yeah, I guess so. It depends on what price freedom, what price. It's all back down to democracy, isn't it? And what price is it worth it? Are you happy for everything you do online to be going to some database?
That's not what it's saying.
With the payoff of the chances of you being bombed and blown up to be reduced.
But it's not talking about giving my internet history over to the UK government. It's talking about it scanning to see if there's any back doors for some software that perhaps I'm using.
Don't you believe it?
Well, there you go. You're scaremongering now. Don't you believe it? They're going to be looking in there at all those pictures of Kate Middleton that you've acquired over the years.
More worrying than pictures of Ana de Armas or whoever. More worrying than that is actually if you use certain words, for example, in a text message, you use the word bomb or terrorist or you go and search Google for how to make a bomb, for example, and then suddenly who knows where that's going and what flags are being flagged up. And me having said this now on this podcast, I'll be that someone knocking on the door because it's on YouTube.
Yes, because you said bum, not bum, which is you put on a French accent there.
I don't know.
Well, it's all to play for in the future. We'll see. We'll keep an eye on this and let you know whether or not you should be closing your curtains so that they can't scan your home to see exactly what you have in the way of mantleware and other such bits and pieces. The Lenovo Tab M8 4th Gen is on its way, and it looks to be a pretty tasty little device. It's going to be cheap, featuring specifications that do not stand out in any way over its competition, but cheap is the word here that we're looking at. The processor is going to be a MediaTek Helio A22 quad-core, 2.0 gigahertz. There's a bunch of letters and numbers as well that come after that, but I'm not going to read those out. And you have options of it. Do I have to say this? 2 gigabytes.
Dear.
3 gigabytes or 4 gigabytes of DDR4 RAM. They're doing a 2 gigabyte version of this tablet in 2022.
It's for kids.
That's going to annoy the parents more so than anything else. Daddy, this isn't running well. Well, yeah. What do you say to that? Sorry, I skimped. I spent 80 quid on a tablet and I'm hoping that it runs well. You can't play PUBG. Go to bed. 32 gigabytes of storage, 64 gigabytes of storage.
What about old people?
What about them?
Well, my mum, for example, who we're looking like buying a Nokia T10 for Christmas, this will probably do her. She doesn't need oodles of RAM. She doesn't play games. She doesn't download.
She doesn't have an option of
comics.
Oodles of RAM on this. Did you not hear me? There's 2, 3, and 4.
I know.
None of those can be described as oodles of
No.
RAM.
The point is that if she had one with 2 gigabytes of RAM, I honestly don't believe that what she does with a tablet would make any impact on her at all. I can't. Even if it was 2 gigs of RAM, 32 gigs of storage, she never uses storage on her tablet for anything. All she does with her tablet is social media and surfing the web and Amazon shopping. That's it. And so for her, this would be absolutely fine, even with 2 gigs of RAM.
No.
Yep.
No, 2 gigabyte. It probably won't even turn on with 2 gigabytes of RAM. Does Android 12 not have a minimum feature spec list?
Yeah, it's 2 gigabytes of RAM. But they're also, aren't they releasing? Yeah, they're releasing this one in the 12 Go variant as well. So you'd like to think that the 2 gigabyte version is the 12 Go version, and the ordinary 12 one is the 3 gig. Because, as we know, there are tablets out there like the Nokia with 3 gigs of RAM, and that seems to work all right. So yeah, that's what the 2 gig one is, the Android 12 Go.
Well, I would say that Android 12 will more likely run better on the wheelie bin that you end up throwing this into, because
have you ever used an Android Go device? It's really, really undemanding. I've got one.
Yes,
I've got one here, and you can just do anything on it. Everything that's on it is pared down versions of everything, and it just doesn't use any resources at all. So that's where it's at.
Yes, and I can understand the market that was designed for. But even now, if you want to go and try and run something on it, on 2 gigabytes of RAM, no, someone else has to help me here. Come on, someone, chime in. Be with me in the let's stop doing 2 gigabytes of RAM tablets. Just don't buy it. Go for 3 gigabytes. It'll probably be about 6p more.
What about people that can't afford it, though?
Nicer. But 6p?
People in developing markets that this is probably aimed for, like India and well, actually, India's completely changing these days, isn't it? It's a bad example of a developing market, I think.
Well, no, actually, I think we're coming back to India later on with a story of something that's been... Oh, yes, there is. India's going to be mentioned again.
The middle of Africa, then. And they, people out there just want things that are going to work, and they've got limited connectivity, possibly.
So do better than to get this 2 gigabyte version of a tablet. It's not going to work.
Well, we'll see then what the difference is between the Android 12 Go version with 2 gigs and the Android 12 version ordinary with 3 gigs is. I don't know how much the difference will be. They're talking about the... which is what are those prices? $109 and $159. What's that? Is that the Samsung one?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah,
okay.
I don't think they have prices for these yet.
Okay. And also, why at the bottom of the screen there are they showing what looks like a Kindle on the they've got a Kindle-looking book
Is that
on
not
there?
it?
No, it's not an e-ink screen. It's an ordinary.
I know, but with 2 gigabytes of RAM, you're not going to be able to run colour, are you?
Yeah, you've forgotten what 12 Go is like. It's all right. It's just that they've got cut down versions of everything.
Right. Okay.
Anyway,
yes. Okay. I'll admit. Yes, you're right. There are certain regions of the world where 2 gigabytes will probably help financially the tablet establish itself there.
And it's got stereo speakers. They could have done without that, couldn't they?
Yes, and it's a 1280 by 800 screen as well. They could have cut that down as well, maybe to 240 by 360, because emerging markets as well. Why should they have nice screens to go along with the terrible experience that they're having to deal with?
What I do like about this though is that it's another 7/8-inch device, tablet, which the industry needs more of. Everything's like 10 and 11-inch tablets these days, and there's a distinct lack of these at this size. So kudos to anyone that produces one smaller.
Yes, yeah. I do like the old 8 inches there. They're good.
Yes, thank you.
I wasn't going for that, you dirty beast. Right, okay, and it's got a 3.5mm headphone jack as well, and a micro SD card that supports up to 1 terabyte. So you buy this, you can spend more money on the SD card to put inside it.
Oh, blimey, the grass cutter's back. Every Sunday morning, when it's not pissing down with rain, we've got to expect the bloke outside my window to be cutting the bleeding grass.
Well, go turn the hose on him.
It's off, go on.
All right, do tell us about this Nokia retro-inspired black edition ZFC.
No, not Nokia. Nikon, come on.
Ah, that's what I said. Sorry.
I'm not going to be able to launch into the technical details of this, no doubt, but it looks absolutely gorgeous, and I absolutely want one. It's £1,000. Not Nikon. You got me at it now. Nikon have produced a retro-looking black version of its APS-C mirrorless camera, the ZFC. And it looks just lovely, and I so want one, and it's such a lot of money that I could never really justify buying one. It has a real kind of look of Fujifilm X series about it, as well as retaining the SLR, what looks like a mirror housing on the top that you look through. Well, you don't actually look through it; you look into it because it's not an SLR. But it's dinky as well. It's a tiny. They've released one new lens to go with it, which has also got a manual aperture ring, which is just delightful, as we've spoken on the show before about. And the top plate has got an LCD. It's a very tiny LCD readout. But I think the retro bit of that, they put this window, an LCD window on the top plate, and it tells you what your your aperture setting is. And I'm guessing that when you use it, you can probably change that to something else. But it looks like the little window that used to be. All right, it wasn't an LCD; it was a manual counter for your film, how many shots you've taken. But it just looks the part completely on top of there. And the lens looks lovely. It's a 40mm f2 lens. You can, of course, use other Nikon lenses on the device, but this lens has been specifically designed for the release of this phone camera. And it's just gorgeous. And I want one really, really badly. But, yeah, £1,000 plus 300 quid for the lens. So you're into 1,400 quid to buy this little kit. Wow. Although the £1,000 actually does include where is it? It includes a 16 to 50mm Nikon ZDX standard kind of kit lens with VR. So you do get that with it. So you get, if you want to just spend $1,000. In fact, it's not $1,000. It's $1,200, whatever that is today. And yeah, it just looks lovely, and it's just the whole retro look of it. I know that you'll want one of these as well.
Absolutely, I'm on Nikon's website right now. Not Nokia's, Nikon's. I'm just because I wanted to see what it looked like around the back as well, and it does. It's got a full a very angle V-logger screen that can pull out and rotate as well for whatever you happen to need to. Oh yeah. It's gorgeous, and it comes in a variety of different colours: black, white, pink, green, cyane type turquoise. Is that?
That's not the special edition though. This one is it's only available in black. The one you're looking at is the ZFC Ordinary. This is the retro special edition black, so it's slightly different. But yeah, if you want to not have the retro one, you can get different colours.
Gosh, it is lovely. Yes, very, very nice. I'm going to come away from that website because I was starting to customise, and I'm not going to do that.
No.
I don't need a camera.
No.
I've got a couple.
Yes.
All right, France.
Couple?
France.
You've got about 200, haven't you? With your job lot with Canon Special.
No, I'm not counting those.
Okay.
They're trash. France, I put them in a box. I sorted them all out into working, not working, and I put them all back into a box. I don't know. I have to spend time going through them again if I want to try and do something with them because they smell as well. Right, France. That's a country. Yeah, South England, down there across the channel. Right, they are looking. Right, okay. They are putting forward this initiative that all car parks are to be covered in solar panels. Now, over the next 5 years, it's going to be 5 years for smaller car parks with between 80 and 400 spaces. And then in anything larger than that, we'll have to have it done in a shorter time for which they have, I think it's 3 years, they have to comply with this. They have to comply with this. That's a bonkers way of doing it. But the yield out of this is that it should generate the country 11 gigawatts of electricity, which is roughly equivalent to that of 10 nuclear power stations. It is an unbelievable solution to the power problem. But there's so much that needs to be explained before this can go forward. You know, the amount of car parks we're talking about, there's many of them, I imagine, over the entire of France, because it's a fairly large country on the scale of countries. It's much bigger than, say, Northern Ireland. And I think in Belfast, there's plenty. I can't imagine the amount that there are in Paris alone. And for them to cover them in... this is going to have open-air car parks at the side of, I don't know, a shopping centre. Is that going to have some kind of roof type thing that's put over it that has all of these solar panels on them over every space? It's going to require a structure to be built over every car park. And then is it up to the person who owns the car park to do this? And do they sell the electricity back to the state, or does the state just take it? You know, it's a bonkers thing. They reckon that there's going to be 156 stations throughout. Oh no, that's one particular. The French rail service have 156 railway stations with car parks throughout the country, and 1.1 million square meters will be covered in these, and that'll reduce energy consumption by 25%. It is a great solution, but it's something that you can't even imagine a movie being made about it. It's so barmy and bonkers. What do you
covered?
think?
I got confused with this because I thought when they said covered, they meant that you cover the ground with it. You're talking about putting a roof over it and making them cover it, as in put a roof over it with panels on it.
They can't cover the ground,
well, exactly,
because then a car will be parked on top of it.
Exactly, and also they'll break it because it's made of glass. Well, yes. I suppose it doesn't need to be. But that was my first reaction. But you're talking about roofs. So presumably, if they're going to make privately owned car parks do this, they're going to have to cough up and pave them. But what they might do is they say, right, we'll pay for the installation of the roofs to put these in, but we'll take the power that they generate as well. Or if they make the owner of the car park, or maybe this is only for state-owned car parks. I don't know. It's not very clear, is it?
They say it's for all car parks.
Perhaps in France, all car parks are state-owned. Well, I don't know.
I was thinking from the point of view, I know one of the gentlemen who owns a large car park in the centre of Belfast, and he does have a pretty tidy sum of money in his bank account from that multi-storey car park, because it's just a license to print money. Mm-hmm. So he isn't short the bob or two that it would require to put some sort of solar panel roof on top of that multi-storey car park.
Okay.
But being a businessman, he's going to be demanding something back. That he's selling that because it's generated on his land. And if something were to go wrong with it, who do you, he's putting money in, all these things, all these questions that would have to be asked. It sounds bonkers, but it's so bonkers it just might work.
It does say that Emmanuel Macron's large-scale plan is to heavily invest in renewables, which means that probably the government are heavily investing in this. I reckon that the government are going to pay for it, and the controversy here is that car park owners have to have this whacking great big roof over their car parks, and that's the problem, not the actual money side of it. I don't know.
Well, from that point of view, I think it's quite good, because I've been in France and I've gone to get into a car with a leather interior during the summer and have third-degree burns from it. So it'll shade your car.
Who's going to clean them? Who's going to go out there and wipe up all the bird shite?
Well, that would probably be down to the person who owns the car park, which just means they're going to need something, some ongoing monetary income to look after them, to make sure that they are good, and then to change them again once solar panels then become more efficient in the years to come, having them all done away with and new ones put in.
Exactly. Technology moves on, it'll be expensive to change them all. I hope Macron has thought about that. Macron, Emmanuel.
It's a crazy thing, but just imagine it happening around your way. Imagine your local car park then having something like this. You get kids playing on it and jumping up there and writing graffiti.
And chucking bricks on it to break the panels.
Yeah, there'll be some graffiti ISS wankers across it in white paint. And the astronauts up there go, ooh. Right. Okay. Well, it'll be interesting to see what happens there. We'll keep an eye on this story because it's going to develop a lot faster, given that they have to comply within 3 years of starting in July 1st, 2023. So you're going to start getting them signing up for it and then complying. So in 5 years, we're going to see every French car park covered in solar panels.
It's generally a good move, though, isn't it? The governments around the world all investing in alternative power sources. You know, it's going to be great, but the problem is the process of this kind of issue, getting it in there and doing it, and wind farming and hydropowering and paying for the setup of the whole thing.
Yeah. All right, well, we're an hour into the show,
Whoops.
Ted. So, expensive Bluetooth headphones. In a nutshell, what are they?
They're made of wood.
Brilliant.
A pair of
a
pair of headphones made by Audio-Technica, made of wood, and they reckon that there's some really clever stuff going on inside there with this stuff called diamond-like carbon, DLC, which is coating the diaphragm inside the 4.5 centimetre driver. The point is, though, that they look absolutely lovely. They're made of wood on the outside, and they look just gorgeous. And I'd love to have a pair of these. They cost €3,000. One pair of headphones for €3,000. And you know, the first thing that comes to my mind is, if I was going to pay £3,000 for €3,000 for a pair of headphones, I wouldn't want ones with a battery inside, I don't think. I'd want to have a wired set that are going to last forever, that I'd pass on to my grandchildren, if I had any, and they would just be forever, you know. But what's going to happen is you pay €3,000 for a really posh pair of headphones. The battery inside the thing, presumably in both sides of it, is going to at some point give up and knacker. And then you spent all this money on a pair of lovely headphones, and they're unusable. Well, the company might replace the batteries, I suppose, as long as the company exists and is able to do that and keeps the spare parts. But, I mean, don't you think, you know, if you're going to spend all that money, I'd rather have a longer-looking battery, you know, a usability situation.
Oh, absolutely, yes. It's part of the value for money thing. But this is entirely for... I don't think the person who buys these would actually use them, would they?
In which case, the battery would die even quicker.
Yeah, very true, very true. It's all style, no substance. Yeah. All right, moving on to Jerry Rig Everything has taken the ROG Phone 6 Pro and put it through his durability test. And how did it fare compared to the ROG Pro 5 Pro?
Pretty much the same. They both snapped in half. It's quite frightening. I put a link in the show notes to the point in the video where he actually does it, so you can leap straight to the snapping. But it's just like scary. I don't know what Asus are up to with, you know, the robustness of their phones. But apparently, I didn't watch the ROG Phone 5 Pro one from last year, but apparently exactly the same thing happened with that. And it's really unusual. The interesting thing was that the screen, the Gorilla Glass Victus screen on the front, completely survived. It was bent, but it didn't break. It was all the back that broke. And he was putting it down to...
the screen in the back survived.
The what?
the screen on the back still worked.
Oh,
despite
yeah,
the fact
yes, that's right.
Broke into
yeah, it
smithereens.
did. But he was putting it down to the fact that there's 2 batteries in it, one on each side, and that's not giving it enough strength, whereas your traditional phone would have 1 battery, and that adds to the strength. But interesting to watch. Do have a look.
Yeah, it is. But I don't think that's... It does feel like it's a bit of a pie in the face of Asus for producing the phone that does that, but I think that's the best that they could do with what they had. But it is an expensive phone, and that shouldn't happen, because you sit on it and it'll bend and snap. Likey Let's phone 2. We've talked about this before because it's got a lens cap over the lens. Do tell us about the Leica Lights.
The Leica Lights. The Leica Lights.
We'll go with that.
We'll go with that. The phone 2. We talked about the first one, and this is the second one, which is actually a bit of a rip-off of the Sharp device, which we spoke about before. But again, it's just like an object of desire. It looks absolutely lovely. It's got a 1-inch sensor, 47 megapixel main sensor, with a 1-inch size. And a fast lens and blah blah blah, up-to-date chipset, and it's going to cost about £1,500, which actually is not bad. I actually think that the one we were talking about earlier might cost more than this. What were we talking about earlier? That phone.
Oh, the Oppo. Yeah, Find X6.
So actually, I thought that this would be more expensive than this, but it does look really, really classy. And I don't know about the kind of update schedules that they're going to apply to this, but they're in bed with Sharp, clearly, and Leica are kind of doing the business. And it just looks lovely. And it would be nice to have one, but, a lot of money, and it's very niche.
Yeah, it has that look about it that reminds me of the old Nokia Lumias.
Yeah,
that they put out with Windows Phone on it, and it just seems that they've taken that idea, because they were gorgeous with the rounded edges to the screen, but the square edges to the phone. And I do love the look of this. And if you could trust that you were going to get, a couple of different Android and security updates and things like that, then I would have one of these.
For those that have got the money, it would be just cool to carry a Leica phone around with you, wouldn't it?
Yeah, but you'd hate to turn around and take some pictures of this and go, Pixel 6 was better.
Yes. That'd be really annoying, wouldn't it? Yeah. We could laugh at them.
All right, on to the next section, which is In the Name of the Game. On this particular section, we talk about all kinds of gaming hardware and things like that, and bits and pieces that have come along that seem fairly interesting. And we'll start with this ridiculous report that the Oculus founder claims to have made this VR headset that will actually kill you if you die in the game.
We'll buy one of those then, shall we?
Well, yeah, there's nothing like... entirely alienating your audience in one fell swoop. But if you have a look at it, they haven't actually built it. I don't believe it's a concept at the moment. It's a VR headset that has these 3
guns,
3 things sticking out that apparently have a charge in each of them. And if you die in the game, these fire off and destroy your brain.
This must be... Is it April the 1st? No, it's not.
No, it's well far away from it, that's it. So, yeah, it essentially is a bit of hardware that commits premeditated murder.
That's mad, isn't it? It must be a joke.
Well, I'm hoping that they just give one to Mark Zuckerberg, and he has to go with it.
Oh no,
he's harm too.
He's in favour this week over Elon Musk. Suddenly Zuckerberg has got the thumbs up from everyone. Oh, he's a nice chap after all, compared to the monster out there.
Well, yes, absolutely, but that's the way of. Would you prefer to be shot with a gun or stabbed with a knife? One of them is slightly more Well, depending where you get shot.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I don't think this is going to sell particularly well. It won't be the must-have gadget this Christmas. But I suppose there are a few people that could be bought one, and I imagine listeners will urge me to try one, review and unbox on this YouTube channel if you're watching it on YouTube.
Yes.
Just remember, we might be going on YouTube. Okay, Nintendo has formed a new studio that focuses on mobile games.
Whoa.
And you're our resident Nintendo expert.
I'm not.
Tell us all
No,
about
I'm not an expert. I just remember what I like, and I remember Nintendo playing Super Mario Kart and Super Mario Run on the mobile, which works in portrait, which is just a bit odd, I think. I'm not quite so sure about the mobile games that run in portrait. I'd much rather play games in landscape, even though it doesn't fit with the in vogue TikTok brigade, who like to do everything in...
Of which you are one.
everything in portrait. Anyway, they've done this deal with what's name? What's it called? Dinar.
Oh, Dinar.
Yeah, Dinar. And they've done this deal with them, which means they have worked with them before to produce mobile games, and they're pushing out some more. And the news here really is that they're, because of this arrangement with the companies, they're going to be doing even more. And I didn't realise that Animal Crossing was part of the kind of Nintendo thing, as either Fire Emblem Heroes, I don't know. But those core Mario games, let's hope that they'll be even better, and they might add a landscape option for people using them on phones. I don't think they will, but they do. Have you played any of the Mario? Have you played the Mario Run on a phone ever?
When it first came out, I jumped on the bandwagon for at least 5 minutes.
Yeah, it's odd, isn't it? I just think it's to play some sort of platformer like that in portrait is just really odd. I just didn't get it. To some degree, you can do some games in portrait, but not platformers. Anyway,
no.
Anyway, we'll see what happens. We'll see what comes of it. It's not really very exciting news. I know. Move on.
Well, Donkey Kong works in portrait because the original cabinet. If you think about back to the original arcades, they used generally portrait screens in them, and you would have things like 1942 and all those shooters where the plane was at the bottom shooting up. Centipede, Millipede, Asteroids. Atari jumped onto that as well, and it was only televisions that went to the 4x5 and then eventually into landscape that kind of adopted that.
Yeah.
So portrait might be a nice way to go back to some of the simpler gaming mechanics. I think Mario Run, all you can do is jump in it, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so. I've not played it for ages, but I remember I did the same as you. I put it on and then played it for 5 minutes, and I thought, this is a bit stupid, and took it off again. But the Super Mario Kart, for example, might work better. I've not tried that one. Because anyway, yeah, you're right. I'd forgotten that there were games, and also the Evercade. They've made portrait available, haven't they? You can turn the thing around now and play games in portrait.
Well, yes, but at the same time, I don't know that this exclusively means that it's going to focus on portrait gaming on the mobile, because I don't know if you know, but you can turn your mobile phone to the left or to the right and achieve landscape.
Yeah, but if the thing has been written and coded for portrait, it would just kind of fill up the middle bit, wouldn't it?
But when you're doing something like Super Mario Kart, you can turn the phone. I saw a video quite recently of F-Zero being played on widescreen, and they written in the edge of the coding as well, so that it just looks so much better than it was in the 4x5 aspect ratio. Okay,
well then I'll try some of these games in portrait and see what I find. Report back next week, okay?
Fair dues. Okay, Google Stadia. Remember that? No. So they're shutting it down, but they're giving people refunds.
Whoa.
Ted, you got a refund?
No, I haven't yet. But I did look up what they're supposed to be giving me, and because almost all of my purchases were freebies, special offers, they only owe me £19.99. So, and I think I ought to give that to Gareth Williams anyway, because he was the one that bought them all off me.
You could be out a fortune.
Have you worked out how much they owe you?
Well, I know I have an idea. I bought several games, but I don't think I ever bought hardware. I got it free when they were giving it away for free.
Same as me.
And then I bought a few handsets or a few extra game controllers off eBay, I think.
Okay.
And only one of them worked.
You won't get those because I was only from official store.
But I do want them to do an update so that they become Bluetooth, because they are pretty good controllers, and it would be a shocking e-waste disaster if they weren't to do something like that, and these were to all now end up in landfill.
Right? Yeah, definitely.
Obviously, people can use the Chromecasts for other stuff, but being able to play games with the
I never thought of that. You can still use the controller. Oh yeah.
Well, you can wired, but you can't wireless.
Yeah.
Doing wireless would be great.
Yeah. But even wired, that's good. I never thought of that. So they're not wasted.
Not overly, no. But people won't settle for just wired. Yeah. We're not animals, you know. Amazon, okay, moving into flap your trap about an app. Amazon has announced a new plan to their video Prime Video subscription service, which is rolling out in, of all countries, India,
and other
where
places.
I said we'll be coming back to.
Well,
this is an SD option that still allows you to download movies to your mobile and take them on the go, but it's allowing SD streaming on the go, which is kind of cool, and it'll be $599 rupees, isn't it?
Ruples. No, that's
Ruble.
That's the South Africa thing, isn't it? No, it's not.
That's rand, is it not?
Oh, is it? Well, RS, ruples. It must be rupees.
That's what I said, rupees.
No, well, your emphasis was in the wrong place. It confused me. Rupees.
Sorry, rupees. Yes, so it'll be $599 rupees, which works out about $7.2 per year.
That's better. We know what that means. No, not per year. Is it? An annual cost?
That's what it says here. It's in the third line of the paragraph there.
Per year?
Per year.
Blimey. That's cheap, isn't it? I'll do that. I don't mind watching it in low quality.
Well, you have to get your VPN on then, and then the government will scan you and realise that you're
cheating. The standard definition thing. You see, the thing is that this is a mobile only plan, and it'll only work on phones. Well, I don't know what they're going to do about tablets. Do you think it'll work on tablets?
Well, I'd like to think so. They are just slightly bigger versions, but you can. I'm sure you could still cast it. Isn't there a cast button? You can, if you have a Pixel device, you can just cast your screen.
It'll also be restricted.
Block that?
It'll also be restricted to a single device. So, another restriction of the new plan is that it'll be restricted to a single device. So you couldn't use it on your tablet and your phone. I don't know how they're going to manage that.
But you can still cast, so I'm sure people will find ways around it. But yes, it's another low-cost alternative for people.
I think that's good.
Yeah, no mention of ads, though. They didn't say it's ad-supported.
Oh, dear.
Unlike Disney's announcement recently has price hikes and a new ad-supported plan that comes along. And for $80 a year, you can get Disney Plus with ads. You can pay to be advertised at, which is wonderful. For a full $30 more, you can get Disney Plus without ads. And then there's $14 a month without our yearly buyout. You have to pay $14 a month for the Disney Plus existing bundle, including Hulu and ESPN, which is
if you're in
great,
America.
I suppose. Yeah. So we won't get that here, but we do have the opportunity to be advertised at in order to pay slightly less.
I think you're probably paying for the programs, not the advertising.
Well, it's part and parcel.
Yeah. I've still got a Disney Plus thingy that Chris Kelly donated to me after he bought a Samsung phone, and it must be coming to the end of the year now, I'd imagine. But I have to say that I've not used it at all. I occasionally, when I'm bored, I flick through it and have a look and see and try and find something to watch. I think I watched 101 Dalmatians once. That was about it. Oh no, I watched Pinocchio as well. But
well, remember to go in and turn off auto renew because it's on by default.
I have. I've got that all lined up because I paid it by PayPal, and because I had to pay £1, or I think it was, and my PayPal's got a switch you can turn off the renewal thing.
Right. Okay.
But
I do think a lot of people will be cancelling their Disney Plus.
Yeah. It's silly money, isn't it?
Yeah. You can't have all of them, and people are tightening their belts. And I reckon Disney's one of the least thought of streaming.
Although if you've got 4 screaming brats crying at you because they want to watch the latest Disney stuff, you might want to kind of pay £12 or whatever it is a year to give in, or a month to give in, because a lot of that stuff is aimed at kids, isn't it?
It's a good opportunity to discipline those children and make them feel how we were when we were young.
Yes. 3 channels, if you're lucky.
Yes, and you only get to watch television on a Saturday morning.
Yeah.
Not during the week. Right. Optimized YouTube Shorts player is rolling out to TV. And do we even have to talk about this? I watched the video guide, and it just annoyed me how the lady spoke at me and told me, you press the play button to play, and then if you press the pause button, you'll never guess what it does.
Yes.
It pauses. If you hit right, it'll give you the description on the YouTube Shorts, which is amazing, given that some of them are 7 seconds long. You won't even have the chance to read anything, or you have a choice: either read the stuff or watch the video. So you'll have to go back and watch it over and over and over again to be able to get the most out of it.
Yeah. What I do like about this is that you can use the remote control in your hand to to go down and up. That is a really good feature, instead of having to use your phone screen when you're casting to your telly to swipe the phone screen with your finger to move through the videos. Use the remote control. I like that. That's good. But yes, it's a bit of a crap thing generally, having a whacking great big TV screen and just using the middle bit of it.
Well, I do remember there was a TV that was it LG made it, and it would automatically rotate whenever it detected portrait orientation. So I do wonder, looking at the way this is, it isn't just a portrait orientation, because it has stuff off to the right, like the name of the video, and allows you to like and things like that. So that could actually confuse that mechanism, and it won't rotate because it's essentially a larger screen. And I know where you get something, and maybe on a video where they're analysing 2 cameras. Someone has a rig. I think Steve does them in his videos as well. He can have 2 cameras and he's videoing at the same time. My TV will go, oh, this looks like you're watching 3D. I'm like, no, it's fine. Just go back to what you were doing. No, you're okay. And so the TV does smartly do stuff. And if they start messing around with that, it could end up breaking features that you relied on in the past.
Right, yeah. Anyway, it's YouTube Shorts, so we don't care. Bring us TikTok. That's what we want.
All right. Microsoft is going to clamp down on the data that you have on your OneDrive with a data cap. Ted, do you use OneDrive?
No. The story of this is that Microsoft are doing the dirty on people that previously in their Outlook.com accounts, where they used to store email with attachments, they didn't count the attachments as part of their OneDrive storage, which is particularly significant if you've got the Microsoft 365 with 1 terabyte, because if you look back over time, you might have a huge amount of attachments to emails. I know that I have in my Gmail that count towards your 1 terabyte in
all those pictures of Kate Middleton in a bikini.
That's the ones, yeah. And Microsoft have obviously kind of caught up with this and decided that that's not going to be included, which is, to be honest, I think it's fair enough, because I've been used to whatever's in my Gmail counting towards my storage for years anyway. So I don't know why. I suppose people that have been used to getting that included and not having to think about that are, a bit pissed off, understandably, because it's suddenly changing and Microsoft appear to be money grabbing. But that's the story here. Well,
they're just tightening their belts with the amount of storage that people are actually using.
Yeah.
Google had to do that as well. There was the whole Google Enterprise scam thing where people were backing up, more than their allotted amount because they were on Enterprise. It was effectively open-ended, and you could put as much stuff in there as possible, and they were just waiting for the day that Google turned around and went, hang on a second, you should only have 10 terabytes in here. You've got 12 petabytes.
Yeah.
Do something about it. So they're starting to do something about it.
Yeah. Talking of storage in Google,
yes.
A slinky
in the Chrome corner.
A slinky link to Chrome Corner. This is for basically workspace accounts, but they're going to expand. Google are going to expand the free drive storage from 15 gigabytes to 1 terabyte. So they're going to jump up with what Microsoft are doing by the looks of it. But get back in your pram, because this is not for personal accounts. That would be quite nice, wouldn't it? To suddenly not have to pay anymore for our 100 gigabytes and suddenly be given 1 terabyte. But as you said just now, it's very much about tightening belts and not doing this stuff. But Google favour these workspace accounts, and of course there's not so many of them, so they can afford to kind of give away a freebie and make headlines for a podcast like ours and make them sound better and more generous, but the likes of us two can't even use it. And the other the other Chrome Corner story was the new Chrome OS beta testing hub. So if you've been used to using Chrome books and using the beta channel or the developer channel or whatever, you just basically have no information unless you drill down into the developer channel website. Well, what they're doing here is making a hub so that you can, and I've had a look at it, and it's very, very user friendly. And if you want to switch between beta or what's the ordinary one called? Stable, that's the word. Stable, beta, and dev. You can just do that on the fly with nice big shiny Material U buttons. There's nothing really to see here. It's just that they've made this nice shiny looking hub, and you can sign up to that with your Google account and go and manage that from there with your Chromebook. You can't manage it from Windows. I tried. You've got to manage it from the Chromebook itself, and you can just switch between them much more easily. And it gives you a background of changes and change logs, and it's just all very nice and shiny and nice looking. So link in the show notes to that.
Yeah. I just remembered there was something that we were going to test.
Was there?
Last week, but obviously we didn't. Oh. But never mind. Let's not draw any attention to that because people will expect us to do it. Right. Moving into Harkback, where we look back at things of olden times that we were quite taken by or affected us or were important to us. And this week, something that I've actually done before, but I did before for my GCSE English oral, because I stood up and made a presentation about this new thing that was really exciting me. It's called Freescape. This is a video game engine that was used to make a number of games by a company called Incentive and released by Dumark back in the day. You may know the names of these games: Driller, Darkside, Total Eclipse 2, Sphinx Jinx, Castlemaster, Castlemaster 2, The Crypt, and the 2 3D construction kits. These were for making essentially large worlds with a sort of a solid geometry that allowed shading and things, so you could actually build blocks a bit like early Minecraft, if anything, and build this world. Castlemaster, I think, was the biggest hit of the bunch. Some may argue that Total Eclipse was, but Total Eclipse was set in a pyramid where you could go in and solve puzzles and things like that. Castlemaster was set in a castle, and you go in and solve puzzles and things like that. They were immersive worlds that were told through the first-person perspective, which I thought was pretty amazing back then. And you could actually walk around in this world, a bit like the likes of The Eye of the Beholder or Baldur's Gate or any of those sorts of RPGs that you would see through the character's eyes and be able to interact with the world, but you could go wherever you wanted. You weren't limited to just walking down corridors or dungeons and that sort of thing. and you would find secret passages in the castles and the pyramids, and pick up treasure, and there would be these ghosty, spirity type things that you'd have to throw a rock at and kill. Loads of stuff to do, and for my young mind, it was just immersion. I felt really immersed in this world. And I got so excited whenever they announced that they were going to do 3D construction kit, which meant on my Amstrad CPC 464, the very limited little 8-bit computer, I would be able to create these games myself. And it came out, I remember the package as well, because it was coming out on something like the 12th of July, one summer, and at the start of June, I was all ready for it. And my parents were going, no, we're going on holiday. You need to save all your pocket money so that you have money to spend on holiday.
The bastards.
Like, I'm saving up for 3D construction kit. I don't want to save for a holiday. You give me money. You feed me sweets and things while I'm away. But no, they made me save up all my money and put it toward going and turning it into francs so I'd go to France and admire their lovely car parks. And then just, I didn't spend a penny while I was away. And I came back, and I remember the day I got the 3D construction kit, I got them to drop me off when we were driving back from the ferry to the house in the centre of the town I live in, so that I could walk down to the pleasure drome and buy my copy of 3D construction kit and walk home, which arrived on a couple of cassettes. It had a huge bulky manual and a video cassette as well of how to use it, which was a mega. I was so excited about it. I opened it up and started watching the video and loaded it up on my Amstrad, and then realised how complicated and slow it was on the Amstrad, and didn't actually do anything with it because it just shattered all my illusions of how I was going to be able to make Castle Master 3, Gareth's Castle. And it took me about an hour to make one block that was supposed to be a church. It was so disappointing, but I was so young that I wasn't prepared to give it the time or anything like that. I wanted to go and, I don't know, watch Indiana Jones on TV or go and mess around with my friends outside, play football and things like that. But they did a Castle Master 2 the next year, which had more useful features like being able to add your own music and things like that. But it only came out in the Amiga, the ST, and the IBM PC or MS-DOS. And I didn't have anything to run it on, so I didn't get into that. I just decided to settle back and play Castle Master once again. Have you ever heard of Freescape Games?
Yeah, it does kind of ring a distant bell somewhere. But what's interesting is the whole kind of looking through the renders of the screens of these games is that I do remember this stuff from my kind of PC playing game days, and way back in the XT days. And that 3D thing was just really interesting because it was very, very blocky, of course, but you suddenly felt as though you were in the place, in the world. You weren't just playing this 2D flat experience. Now, for me, I like the 2D flat experience, but I do remember playing in these 3D new worlds. Oh yeah, that's clever, isn't it? Look at that, I'm moving through. These walls, as I walk forwards, are going back behind me, and that's really, really clever. Even though it was, as I say, really zigzaggy lines and all the rest of it, it was actually doing it. But what I was going to ask you was, this construction kit, what exactly was it? Was it something physical, or was it all just software on a disc, or what was it you were not allowed to buy because you had to go to France?
Oh no! Well, I did buy it whenever we came back to France, but it was a full software kit that it's essentially just dropped you in with a different interface in a world where there was green grass, and then you could start building things. You could set down a block and then expand a block and move a block up, and then put a black mark on it where you could be a door, and then you could do polygons and also pyramids and things like that.
But it was all software. So what you couldn't afford to buy was a disc, basically.
Well, yeah. It came on a couple of cassettes for the Amstrad.
Cassettes, okay.
Yeah, and then 3D Construction 2 came along for the 16-bit era, and that came in a couple of discs. Yeah.
And do you have any memory of the price?
Oh yeah, it was about £30, which was a lot back then.
Yeah, that's really good. But no, I don't. Some of those games though kind of ring distant bells. But it's just like nostalgic of playing of these games. But the 3D thing, I remember. I remember this one game that I was playing where you were in a tank and you were driving through this kind of landscape, and it was just all very clever. You're trying to shoot things, of course. And going up to doors and opening them with tools that you've collected and blah, blah, blah. Just what you described earlier, really. But yeah, but I don't think I really was aware of what Freescape was in terms of programming. Did you make any games?
No, I didn't know. And that was the hard thing about it. Because obviously this was before the internet. So if you made a game in this, it would be entirely for you to play.
Right.
It's not something that you could quite easily distribute to other people. I know there were for shareware and things like that, and freeware. There was distribution methods through fanzines and stuff like that. But it was harder, especially for. I must have been, what year was it released? That was 1991. So I was about 14 years old. Pushing that out to people, what wasn't really something that I had my grasp on. And you couldn't upload it to a BBS in the way that Doom was available to people a few years later. Mm-hmm. And you certainly couldn't hook up your Amstrad or Spectrum to a BBS and download games that other people had made. So I didn't see it taking off in that way. But I think one thing that people forget whenever they're doing lists of first-person shooters is that these games were very early and primitive versions of first-person shooters, because you walk around, or in the case of Driller, I think you're some kind of tank or something like that. I can't remember Driller that well, or Dark Side. I spent most of my time doing Total Eclipse and the Castle Master games. But those games, you walked around and you had to take down enemies that would surprise you when you walked into a room. Now, there was a limited amount of enemies, but and I think it counted and told you when you'd got rid of them all over the course of the game. But yeah, you had to shoot them essentially from a first-person perspective. So that they should be included in those big rundowns as early Wolfenstein games prior to Wolfenstein.
Oh, that rings a bell. Wolfenstein. Perhaps that's the game. Is that tanks?
No, it's not. No.
Oh, right.
I think is it Twilight 2000 you're thinking of?
Oh, okay. Wolfenstein. I'll have to look up a picture of that, because that does ring a big bell. Must be something I played at some point.
Or could have even been Driller, I think, or Midwinter as well. That was a tanky game, but Twilight. No, maybe it wasn't Twilight 2000. Or Hunter. Was there Hunter something?
No, I can't remember. It's too far away from my memory. I'll have a look at Wolfenstein. How do you spell it?
No, it's not Wolfenstein. That was a very sort of cartoony, with a particular art style. Wolfenstein.
Oh yeah, I'm seeing a picture of Wolfenstein now, and that wasn't it. That was far too advanced.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was much more basic graphics than that.
I do remember a game in Polygons where you drove around in a tank and you could get out and walk up to the buildings, but I can't remember what it was called. I think it's got Hunter or Twilight or something in the title, but it'll come back to me later on, and I'll remind you of what it was, and you can go yay.
And I'll see then if it's on Evercade. Excellent.
It's not, but it's about. I saw it recently in a top games of the early 90s or something like that on YouTube.
Right.
Okay, Bargain Basement. We're going to start off with over on Amazon. They have a good deal on the Pixel 7 series. It's $5.99. You can also buy it over 12 months at £49.92 a month.
Ooh.
Or you can trade in an old phone, and I think there's £100 trade-in boost as well. So if you trade in, I tried to go through it earlier to see what I could get for my Pixel 6 Pro, because I was hoping that the Pixel 7 Pro would be stupidly cheap. but I couldn't find the Pixel 6 Pro, so I kind of gave up. But yeah, and being able to pay for it monthly is great.
You get £100 off if you. Oh, that's the trade-in. Okay. Yeah, I don't. Do you know what? Do you know what I reckon is that when my ability to pay things monthly came back temporarily, and they've totally gone again now. I reckon it was just after I bought that Kindle. I bought a really, really basic Kindle for about £6 a month for 5 months or something. And just after I did that, suddenly these options to pay monthly came back. And then as soon as I paid the £5, the 5 months off of the Kindle, they disappeared again. So I wonder if you've got to invoke it.
Well, it's strange. It just depends. I don't have anything going at the moment, so I think I'm getting it on most things that can have it going. But disappointingly, it's not on anything that I really want.
Yeah.
I did see it the other day on a AMD 6900 XT graphics card, and I thought, oh, that would be lovely over 12 months, and I don't know, 80 quid or whatever. I'd quite happily take that, but it wasn't there in the end.
I'm looking at the Kindles again now, and all of them, they let me pay monthly on all of them, but anything that's not a Kindle, it's just not there. It's gone. Anyway, we shall see. The Elgato Stream Deck, which we come back to now and again, which you must buy one day, is 50 quid off at the moment. That's the classic, inverted commas. In other words, the not version 2 one, and it's 50 quid off, so 90 quid. Go and buy one.
Oh, the version Mark II, which is only down 4% to £135, is available on 5 monthly payments for £26.97. That's in white.
Not to me, it isn't.
But in black, it is as well.
How much is the 32? No, that's not reduced. That's still on 228 quid. That's normal price.
But you can get it for £45 a month?
Yeah, no, there's none of that. You see, it's all gone. Very odd. Anyway,
How bizarre. Okay, next up is, as ever, looking for some sort of good, solid charging adapter. This 30-watt one from INIU, I-N-I-U, the 30-watt USB Type-C plug, is down to £9.99 from £12, which I think is a pretty good price. It's nice to see these things dropping and dropping and dropping. It only has one USB Type-C on the back, but to be honest, that's all you should need.
That in some ways that makes it less complicated.
Yes.
To have to try and work out what wattage you're getting for which port and all the rest of it. So there is an argument to say that's a cleaner idea. Yeah.
No, I quite like it, and you can plug your laptop and your phone and your tablet over it quite quickly.
Indeed. Well done indeed. Right, the Xiaomi 12, which is another dinky little phone, just like my phone, has been it's been reduced even more. It was $599 this morning, and now it's $539. That's been reduced. You get a pair of headphones with it. You're quite right. That's amazing. It's 850 quid this came out at, and where's the keeper? Because it has been cheaper once. $522 it was at one time, but that's really good value, I think. It's a cracking phone. This is the 256GB, 8GB RAM version. Dinky little phone. Lovely. I guess they're reducing it because they're talking about this month releasing the Xiaomi 13, which we talk about on PSC today. So tune into that if you want a bit on that. But $539. This is a lovely phone, and it's got a lot going for it. That's really, really tempting. Mm-hmm. Wish I had £539 spare.
You could sell that Motorola and
yes, I could sell my Sony, which is now resigned to a draw because the Motorola's taken over. But that's even better. $539. You don't you fancy one of those?
No, I like my Pixel 6 Pro. Thanks.
$539. I'll change that in the show notes in case people get confused.
Yes. While you're doing that, I shall tell them about the SanDisk Ultra 3D SSD 4TB version. Now, I was looking at my case thinking, I could do with a new case. And I've got one sitting waiting for Black Friday, the NZXT Flow, It's currently £95. I'm hoping that on Black Friday they'll knock a wee bit off it and I'll pick it up then. But I was thinking I could stick in a few more SSDs with a nice case like that. And notice this SanDisk Ultra, which is the 4TB SSD, and it's reduced in price from £505 down to £302, which is pretty cracker value, if you ask me, for a 4TB SSD. I'm sure in the years to come that price will continue to tumble, but I like where they are at the moment, and any further tumbling will be mostly nice to have. I'm going to add that to my basket as well and wait until Black Friday and perhaps pick both of them up and be a very happy boy.
I know. I'll buy a new case and I'll have lots of slots, so I'll fill them up with SSDs that I don't need.
Yeah. I've got an SSD with almost 10% on it. It's sitting there completely empty.
Dear, oh dear, that's dreadful. 40% off, that is. That was £506. Amazing, isn't it?
Yes.
Wow, very nice indeed. Right. Now, this is one that I noticed in the MeWe group that you clambered all over when I put it up. CCleaner Professional, 1 year subscription for £1. So if you act in the next 3.5 weeks, you can go to CCleaner website and sign up for a 1 year subscription for £1. But you think that that's all crap, don't you?
No, it's something that they did in the past. I can't exactly remember if it was crypto mining. It might have just been uTorrent that did that. But they did something in the past that they installed some stuff with their application, and it was not nice. I can't remember.
Right.
And I think overnight everyone got rid of it. I think they're struggling to get people back. They just can't renew confidence and faith in people. So for $1, I don't fancy selling all of my.
They must have fixed that, surely. If that's
it was devastating to their business model, but they can't be trusted.
Well, okay. When back in the day, I remember our IT bod at work, like 15 years ago, he swore by CCleaner.
Oh, yeah.
He was always whipping it out and shaking it about. And every machine had to have the CCleaner on it, and he made us go through this procedure every so often. And, I remember it fondly. It's a shame that you've told me that now.
Yeah, no, I remember recommending it to a friend to run on his computer, just to clear things up, and he said it took about an hour to run, and he cleaned everything, and whenever he restarted his computer, it wouldn't boot.
Oh my word!
I don't know if he'd done the most thorough cleaning or something, or it just took away something that was so dug down into the registry that it killed something. And his computer wouldn't boot, and he had to reinstall everything.
So what's a CCleaner alternative then? Something that does kind of similar things, but here we go. Here's a list here.
Well, Windows does
Clean
quite
PC.
well itself.
Okay.
No, I wouldn't touch any of those. I think
AVC,
malware bites, and that's about it.
Okay. I remember AVC, Avery G. I remember that being thrown around back in those days as well.
There was Glary Utilities was recommended a while ago, but I don't know if it's still in favour. I just don't trust anything that says that it's going to do what you're looking to do for free or for that amount of money, because it really does. It's super evasive into your computer.
Yeah. Okay, I'll ignore it then. And we don't recommend CCleaner, so take it out.
All right, Jabra. Jabra's next up. It's a little pair of headphones, 45 hours, wireless on-ear headphones, compact, foldable earphones with 50 hours of battery life, not 45 hours that I just said. They change it in the title on Amazon straight away. There's 2 microphones that allow you to call people from the 3 microphones that are available. I don't know, I just added that in because I thought it would be funny. It turned out it wasn't. It's titanium black, and they're down in price from £89.99p to £39. And this deal will last for 4 days.
That looks nice.
They are nice. And there's a very pretty modelling them as well.
The confusion here is that the model name is actually the Elite 45H.
Yes.
And it looks like it's 45 hours. That's very confusing. And there's 5 colours. I like the blue ones, but they're not the cheap ones.
No. Well, you can get the black ones and colour them in.
I get some crayons.
Yeah, that would look stylish. Make a statement.
Yeah, the blue ones are nice. I like those.
Yeah, it's a bit unfair that they're called the 45H and the battery life says 50 hours worth. And they take 15 minutes to charge for 10 hours. I'm not going to work that out. That's too complicated.
That's very good, though.
It is.
50 hours of battery life. Only beaten by the set I've got on my head at the moment, which is the Marshall, what's it?
But what price were they?
They were 100 and... Yeah, they were more. They were 120 quid, I think. But not hugely more. And they've got 80 hours of battery in them, which is even better. But yeah, these look really cute as well. Very, very nice.
Yeah, nice wee headphones.
And the last one is more headphones, and the cheapest price I think I've ever seen, the WH-1000 XM5s by Sony at $299. I know we come back to those now and again as well, but they... have you seen them cheaper than that? I don't think I have.
Well, I could have a look at Keepo right now. 5 monthly payments of £59.80.
I did look at Keeper, and it seemed to be not supporting a cheaper ever, but...
250.
Oh, was there?
Yeah, back in April or August 26th, there were £250.
Oh, that was the. I think that was the special offer on release, wasn't it?
Yeah, it could have been. Yeah.
I think the real price is $279. That's what the RRP is, and still is, I think.
It's 380 according to Amazon.
379, yeah, 380. Anyway, so at the moment, $299 for a spankingly good pair of headphones, as long as you don't want to fold them up and carry them around with you, in which case you need to get the XM4s.
Quite right. They are nice. They are very, very nice. And it's Sony, so you can imagine it's going to be that higher quality and that careful attention to detail and things like that. Indeed. All right. Well, we'll bring it to a close because we're almost at 2 hours and I've got editing to do as well. Okay, so if you want to get in touch with us, you can by emailing us at gareth@techaddicts.uk. You can also find us on Twitter as well, at techaddictsuk. You can find me on Twitter at Gareth Miles, GarethMyles. I also happen to be on Mastodon, on the same thing there. I have my GarethMiles.com, where you can find more about me and silly reviews that I read of movies and crap like that. And there's a Ko-Fi there if you want to buy me a pint. What about you, Ted? Where can they find you?
On Mastodon, it's a bit complicated because you have to... You're not just at Gareth Miles or at Ted Salmon. You've got to also put in the URL, the actual server you're on as well. So mine is mstdn.social/at Ted Salmon. It's not very clean in that respect. I suppose you could make a tiny URL, couldn't you?
Yes.
And fix it up in that way. Anyway, going back to your question, I'm at tedsalmon.com. Links to all I do from there, including all the MeWe groups, all the audio podcasts. Do come and join us in the MeWe groups and have fun with us there. If you want to buy me a coffee, you can do that. That's at paypal.me/Ted Salmon. Thank you so much in advance.
Terrific. And we'll catch us all next week for another colourful and fun trip through the world of technology in a very unexperty type way. Take care now. Bye.
Bye.